What's up, everybody? Happy New Year. So this will be the first video of the new year, and we have lots of very cool content coming up throughout this year. What I wanted to do first in this video is kind of a follow-up to a video I made a couple of months ago on how I made my decision about where to attend graduate school. And I wanted to actually backtrack and talk about, should you attend graduate school at all? It's not a clear-cut yes or no decision. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And specifically in this video, I want to talk about the top 3, in my opinion, worst reasons to go to graduate school. These are reasons that might seem reasonable, but at the end of the day, I truly believe that they are not good reasons to want to go to grad school. And unfortunately, many people do end up going because of these reasons, and I don't think it leads to great outcomes. So no fluff in this video, let's just get right to the point. So the first one is social pressure, and this comes in many different forms, but what I've realized in my years of existence is that we as people do tend to compare ourselves to others. There's no surprise there. We would like to probably not do that, but it is something inherently that we do. But more precisely, what I've kind of realized is that we're not comparing ourselves to the average human, or even the average person in our city, or even the average person in the same exact field of study as us. We tend to compare ourselves to our friends, people we know, colleagues who are in the same field of study, and if all of these people in our circle are going to graduate school, then it's very difficult to not make the same decision and still feel good about yourself. I think that that is a skill that is important to practice, kind of realizing that I don't have to do the thing that all these other people are doing. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't master that skill and end up just giving in, going to graduate school, even though it's not something they truly wanted to do for themselves. Another place that this social pressure comes from could be your family. I know that sometimes parents are very keen on their kid getting as much education as possible because that's supposed to lead to better outcomes, and the kid might end up going, but maybe, again, it's not something they truly wanted to do. Now, I think these forces are kind of invisible a lot of times, not something you're thinking about explicitly, but they don't lead to great outcomes because it's not something you wanted to do. I think the most important thing to realize in these situations is that you are the one who has to deal with all of the consequences of this decision. You're the one who has to take on the debt to attend graduate school. You have to put in the years of your life to get that degree. You have to deal with all the stress that comes along with studying something that maybe you didn't even want to study in the first place. These are all things you have to deal with, not your family, not your friends, not some stranger on LinkedIn looking at your profile. So make sure you're making the best decision for yourself and not for other people. This brings us to number 2, which is going to graduate school as a delay tactic. Now let me kind of explain what that means. For a lot of people, after you graduate from your bachelor's degree or undergraduate degree, there's no natural next step as there was in all previous parts of your life. For example, you graduate middle school, you probably go to high school. You graduate high school, you probably go to college. You graduate college, there's no natural next thing. Some people are going to grad school. Some people are going to get a job. Some people are doing other things. And for a lot of people, this can be a great thing. Finally, I don't have to go to school anymore. I can get a job. I can do what I want. But I think that there's also a very big section of people for whom this causes very large amounts of anxiety and stress over making the best next decision. And so they kind of default to doing what they know. Since all you've been doing your whole life leading up to this point where you graduated undergrad is school, the very easy next, the very comfortable next decision for a lot of people means just doing more school, going back to graduate school, and so that's what they end up doing. Another kind of motivation that people use, which I don't think is really justified at all, is that, oh, I'm probably going to go back to grad school at some point anyway, let's just get it over with now while I'm still in education mode, and then I'll just go work afterwards. Now, I think there's a lot of reasons that this is a bad way of thinking. This is a few of them. I truly think that after graduating, it is difficult to go into a job because it might be your first full-time job. It's not going to be easy. It wasn't easy for me. But I think that there's so many pros that come out of that it outweighs all of the anxiety and cons and difficulties of making that transition. Just to name a couple of the pros, one big one is literally just getting money. Having a solid financial basis is just going to enable you to have more flexibility and freedom to do whatever you want, whether that is school or whether it's not school that comes up next. And I think an even bigger reason is that coming out of undergrad, you would like to think you're kind of an expert in the field, but you're not really an expert in the field. So your decision about what to study in grad school, there's a lot of grad programs out there. It's difficult to know, I think, after undergrad exactly which program is right for me, and so you might choose something that you sort of know, and you might get locked into a grad program that you do not enjoy. For example, if I were to have gone to grad school right after undergrad, I probably would have studied something like math or applied math, pure math, something like that. and that would have been a terrible decision for me. So I think that working for a couple years really gives you a glimpse into how people are using the tools that you studied in academia. And just because of the way academia and industry are set up, and they don't really cooperate with each other too much, I think, you might learn things that you didn't know when you were coming out of school, which might inform your decision about what to study next. For example, after I took a couple years and worked, I decided to do a master's in statistics, which I totally would not have done if I didn't take a couple years and worked. So I truly believe that using grad school as a delay tactic is not a good idea, and there's a ton of benefits to be had by going to work for a while, benefits both financially and just in understanding what exactly you want to do next with your life. And that brings us to bad reason number 3 to go to grad school, and that is to make more money. I saved this for the end because I think it's the most complicated one to talk about. There's not like a clear-cut answer here, but the kind of message I want to get across is that I would not recommend going to grad school just to kind of satisfy this vague notion of, oh, if I go back to school, I'm going to make more money. I think that it's very important to do your own research, to understand exactly how much more money you could be making before versus after going to grad school, and kind of also take into account things like cost of attendance, how much am I paying for this program, also how long is this program. Just to go through a couple of concrete situations with you. Let's say, for example, you're making $80,000 in your current job, and you would like to be making $100,000. And let's say that you're convinced that the only way to make that jump is to get more education, let's say a master's program. And so you go into a 2-year master program whose total price tag is $80,000. And you're hoping that, okay, after this, I'll make more money. Now, if we do a very simple kind of back of the envelope calculation about how long it's going to take to see the return on your investment. So I've kind of just put all the information into this chart right here. We see that the break-even point is 14 years after you start your graduate program. Another way of saying that is that 14 years after you start your graduate program, that is going to be when you start seeing the returns on that graduate program. So up until then, you would have made more money by just choosing not to go back to school. And the reason for that is that the 2 years you're in school, you're not making your income at all. So you have to kind of recuperate that, as well as the literal cost of attendance in terms of how much extra salary you're getting after you leave your graduate program. And we see it takes about 14 years for those two things to even out. And so the natural question is really, do I want to wait 14 years after starting graduate school to see the benefits of graduate school, at least financially? And I think personally for me, that's a difficult sell. For some people, it might be an easy sell. I'm not saying whether it's a good or bad decision. I'm saying that this is definitely a calculation you want to do. And of course, if we change the numbers around a little bit, the whole story changes. Let's say that you're currently making $80,000 again. Let's say that instead you are convinced that after you get your master's program, you're going to be able to make $120,000 based on whatever research you've done. And let's say that this master's program is only 1 year. So you're going to put down only $40,000 and only lose out on 1 year of income. So if we do the same exact calculation, the same exact break-even analysis, we find that this graduate program is going to pay off in just 4 years. And for me, that's a much easier sell, of course. I'm willing to wait 4 years to start seeing the benefits of a program, but personally, I don't know if I can wait over a decade to start seeing the benefits of this program. So again, it's not really important how long it takes to break even. I think it's more important to do this analysis, to think about for your industry, how much more could I realistically be making after graduate school versus before? And I think for a lot of people, you think that there's going to be this huge jump in salary, but sadly, that's not always the case. Especially as we progress towards the future, a lot of industries just don't care anymore. So it really helps to do a full analysis before you commit to going to graduate school of how much money could I make afterward? What is the cost of attendance? How long is this program? Because that affects how many years of salary I'm missing out on. So if money is your primary motivator to go to graduate school, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I think that's a great reason to go back to graduate school. What I want you to do is basically do this calculation and think about how long is it going to take to pay off. If that time frame is massive, I would say don't go back. If that time frame is reasonable for you, then I would say go back. Okay? So these are the top 3 reasons that I see people going to graduate school, but they're all kind of flawed in their own way. There's a lot of issues that go into each one. And so what I'll say at the end of this video is that I'm just one person who you're watching on the internet. So obviously I don't know your own situation. So if there's some specific part of your situation that I don't know about and going to graduate school is the right decision for you despite all of these things, then by all means, go. This is just kind of my advice, my opinion, what I've seen people do, and kind of the mistakes that I've seen other people make, and also some of the same mistakes that I've been making myself. Okay, so if you found this video at all interesting, please like and subscribe for more videos just like this. Any discussion is totally welcome in the comments below, and I will see you next time.